Hey guys, welcome to the Short Term Show special episode series on one of my favorite markets of all time, the Texas Hill Country, Hook 'em Horns. So guys, we're going to do a 10 episode deep dive on investing in the Texas Hill Country. And we got 10 episodes here. I just said that, but make sure you hit that subscribe button because we are going to do a quarterly update that you don't want to miss. You guessed it, every quarter. And we do have some supplementary materials for y'all, in addition to the content on this podcast. We've got those over at our website, theshorttermshop.com. So if you want to know anything about purchase prices of properties in these markets, or we've got all of the income data thanks to our friends over at AirDNA. And we've got all of that for you, again, at theshorttermshop.com. If you guys want to buy a short-term rental with a short-term shop agent in the Texas Hill Country, email us at agents@theshorttermshop.com and we will hook you up. Or if you just want to hang out with us more and talk about short-term rentals, there's a few ways you can do that. We've got a great Facebook group, same title as my book. It's called Short-Term Rental, Long-Term Wealth. Or if you want to talk to us live on Zoom, we have a call every Thursday. You can sign up for at strquestions.com, and we will catch you guys over there. Hook 'em Longhorns. Hey guys, welcome back to another Texas Hill Country episode. This episode, we're going to talk about getting your short-term rental in the Hill Country set up, things you might need to do, things you might need to order, and get everything going. And we've got a wonderful cast of characters to help us do that. So Luke, you're first on my screen if you would like to introduce yourself really quick.
Yes. Hey, I'm Luke. I own the two longest running Airbnbs in the Smoky Mountains, 5,000 reservations on my resume, full-time real estate, financially free since 2018. Life is wonderful, and thank you for having me.
All right. Familiar face, Stephen Gilmer, if you want to reintroduce yourself.
Yeah, sure. So I'm a part-time real estate investor in the Texas Hill Country, primarily managing partner of the container retreat at both Canyon Lake and High along the 290 Wine Trail. And I've got a year's worth of short-term rental experience and then about 10 years worth of long-term rental experience.
Awesome. Thank you for being here. And then Stacy, reintroduce yourself, even though you've been on every single episode.
Sure. I am Stacy Lancaster. I am the Texas Hill Country agent for the short-term shop. I self-managed 3 short-term rentals remotely for about the past 3 years, and longtime investor in real estate for probably 20 years, and now in short-term rentals.
All right. So let's talk about getting these things up and running. So first, let's talk about the permitting process, because I know the Hill Country covers kind of a wide range of areas. Are there any particular permitting processes that you need to go through to get up and running legally?
So it depends on where you are. So in some areas, there's no permitting process whatsoever. There's no approval. And then in others, you do have to either get approved or you should buy a property that already has a permit. So for example, in Fredericksburg, the permitting process is pretty long. And so I typically recommend, if somebody is looking in city limits, that they're only looking at something that is already permitted, which thankfully there's a lot of those on the market. There's quite a bit of inventory that has permits. In Canyon Lake, there's no approval process. Steve, correct me if I'm wrong. I think you still have to get something on file with the city, but I could be wrong on that.
Yeah, excuse me. I don't believe there's no short-term rental permits required. There are some additional taxes you have to be wary of, but no permitting process.
Yeah, so it really varies depending on the area that you're in. Most of our areas don't necessarily have a permitting process, but there are a few that do.
Awesome. So always just make sure, especially if you're buying in city limits, that you are checking the local governments on what you need to do before you're closed, before you close on that property, to make sure that everything is the way that it needs to be.
Yeah, and that really is as simple as it sounds. You can usually just Google, Fredericksburg short-term rental license, permit, et cetera, and there will be a website of some sort, maybe very old school, but, give you some advice on on what to do there and point you in the right direction. Easier. I mean, it sounds too good to be true, but it really is.
Yeah. And there are some areas that make it very difficult to have short-term rentals within city limits, such as New Braunfels. You really can't do short-term rentals within city limits unless it's commercially zoned, which is a pretty narrow scope of real estate. So you want to make sure their website's not super clear on that. And if you call the city, they will say, sure, you can apply, and it's a 60-day process to, get that permit approved. So you want to be really careful about that. New Braunfels, I only recommend outside city limits.
All right. Awesome. And since this is Luke's episode being on the Hill Country, he does not know that I have told everyone to email him and given out his email address on all the previous episodes, telling them to email him and let me get one in the Hill Country.
I'm available. Hit me up.
Yeah. He just doesn't want to set up a new market for us personally at this point in our investing careers. But Stacy's going to find us something awesome in Riverfront to change his mind.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, so permitting, pretty straightforward, just like anywhere else. Make sure, even if you're not in the city limits, that you're calling the local city or county, either building, planning, zoning department, usually words like that, to make sure that you're doing everything right. Because this is definitely something where asking forgiveness instead of asking permission is not the right way to go. Do it right the first time. Make sure your color lines. And also, guys, don't try to skirt the rules. I see people, not really in our markets, but in other markets, trying to figure out cute ways to get around rules so they can operate not necessarily legally. And just don't do that. It's not worth your investment to be shut down. And then what are you going to do? So start in the right place and stay on the right course, but you guys would never do that stuff. So I'm going to stop preaching about it. So,
and the fees, to piggyback on that, the fees, if you do break the rules, are substantial. So they like thousands of dollars a day. So again, our group would never do that, but there are plenty who try.
Yeah. Okay. So enough on permitting. Next, let's talk about your people, the people that you need to get up and running. So typically you'll start with a cleaner and a handyman or woman. And at what point in the contract or closing process should we start interviewing those people to be most efficient and to not waste time?
I generally recommend, pretty quickly, once you're a couple of weeks under contract, once you're out of your option period, and, it looks like everything's going to move forward, to start making those phone calls and trying to find somebody who's going to be a good fit for you, because you may have to talk to a few people before you find somebody that you really are comfortable with and click with.
Yeah, I could go either way on that one because, sometimes you might call a cleaner and say, hey, I don't close for a month, or, I'm just looking around for a property. And they might be like, well, wait a minute. Do you need something cleaned or do you not? Because I just clean houses. And, a lot of times they can't even figure out, like a lot of people don't even realize what it takes to close a property, So I could go either way. Sometimes I feel it's best to get it going early on. And sometimes I think maybe just really in a lot of cases, if you get lucky, 3 or 4 days notice in some cases might be better, because then you can just say, hey, I need this house cleaned next week. Can you start? That kind of thing. So I've done it both ways.
Yeah. For us, or as early on in the process as possible, depending on where you are in the Hill Country, we're a little bit more remote. So we started much earlier because we wanted to make sure that there was somebody in our area that could actually clean. And it's a good thing we did, because it took several months, and we had a cleaner that we thought was going to work out, and then ended up couldn't do it because of this, that, and the other. So you want to make sure you give yourself plenty of time so that when you are ready, that you've got somebody ready to go.
And is it typical, Stephen, out there for cleaners to take the laundry offsite and do it, or do they usually hire a linen service? And then also, do they typically provide the consumables like paper products and things like that? Or are you Amazoning those to them?
So it depends. So the majority of the cleaners, the owners provide all of the consumables and materials. As far as laundry, it really depends upon the location. So we provide plenty of laundry service at our location, so they can do it there, and we have all the backups that you need. Some will take them offsite and do them at commercial laundromats, I think it just really depends. If you just have a one location, if you have, backup systems and all of your linens where they can just change them out, they'll throw them in your washing machine and dryer while you're cleaning and do it all right there.
Okay, good deal. So most of the time you're providing all of the things that need to be restocked, and they're just letting you know when it's time to do that. So, and giving you enough time to order them and get them to them.
Yeah, that's absolutely correct. So we have a system, and they just let us know when they need what, and I just get on there, shoot it right over to them, and they take it up there for us. Works out great.
Okay, awesome. And is there a strong infrastructure of the right type of cleaners in the Hill Country yet? Or are we having to hire either people who haven't been in the industry before, or maybe housekeepers that have been cleaning primary homes and then training them how to turn a vacation rental?
So I would say it depends on the area. So in Fredericksburg, there's lots of cleaners who do short-term rentals and are experienced with that. In some of our more kind of emerging markets, I think that's a little bit more of a challenge, and you may have to find somebody who does, just regular cleaning, residential cleaning, and, help them understand how to do a short-term rental. I don't know, Steve, what your experience was in your areas.
Yeah, so Canyon Lake was a little bit easier to manage. There were, since there's a higher volume of short-term rentals there was a better infrastructure of cleaners. Out in high, there's not a whole lot. I mean, there's some short-term rentals, but it's mainly rural. So there's really only one or two people that had the ability to be able to manage the cleaning crews. So, and they are hiring people that have never done short-term rental cleanings. So it's been a little bit of a learning process. It's a little bit more challenging once you get into the rural areas.
Gotcha. Just like anywhere. Okay, so let's get into the actual setup of the house. So let's talk about linens really fast. We'll start with linens. So how many sets of linens do you order? How many towels do you have in each bathroom? Where are we ordering from? Give me all those details.
For us, the sheets, the linens, the sheets, towels, the sheets, pillowcases, etc. we got off of Amazon. We have 2 sets for every bed. So we have 2 of everything, 2 sets of everything. So if a fully outfitted container for 2, it's going to have, like I mentioned, 2 bath, 2 hand, 2 washcloths, 1 makeup, and then we have a complete second set of those for every container. So that as the cleaners come in, they can save themselves time. They're just taking everything out, putting in the new ones, and then restocking, and then cleaning the new ones and then restocking. So there's always sets available for them to be able to save time, get in and get out.
Yeah, I like to have 3 or 4 sets personally. Just you can't have too many. Can't have too many towels,
Yeah. Well, the good thing is with, since we have 13 containers at one place and 12 units at the other, we don't always have them all full. So we've always got some emergency backups just in case. But I like that recommendation. We'll probably be adding some more sets just to make sure that we've got those redundant systems. And then one of the things we'll do also is if we have somebody staying, normally we're just 2-3 nights. If we have somebody staying 4 or 5 nights, we'll throw in a few extra towels and some trash can liners just to make sure they've got everything they need. And then as far as like I said, I've gotten everything off of Amazon. Done a lot of research through all the Facebook groups and everything like that. And the basics is we're not a high end, so we don't need to have the super high thread count. So we went with a nice, good, durable towel that's fast dry, as well as these sheets that are comfortable. Everybody's been happy with them. They're not super expensive, but they're not super cheap. So we kind of went with the middle of the road based on what our clientele needs.
Awesome. So let's move to the kitchen. So what kind of coffee machine and coffee are in here?
Yeah, so actually we're running 2 different plays. At Canyon Lake, we've got the individual Keurigs, and we provide a basic amount of pods. At our 290 Wine Trail, we went with drip coffee makers, and we went with a local roaster, and we have branded ground coffee for our guests. So that seems to have been a big hit. And so we may, on future locations, go with that same route. Just a way to show them, hey, this is something personalized for you, as opposed to just some K-cups.
Okay. Yeah, I feel like you kind of have to do both, because you never know what somebody is coming expecting. I did it in Montana recently. I went and bought a bunch of K-cups on the way in from the airport and got there, and it was only regular, but they did have the grounds, so it wasn't that big of a deal. But I also could not figure out how to use their coffee maker, like, period, which is another thing. You want to make sure that you have easy to use stuff. This coffee maker was beautiful. It looked like something out of the hippest coffee shop where it's going to be $20 a coffee, which I'll pay $20 a coffee. I enjoy a good coffee, but I could not figure out how to use it. It took me a good hour at 5 o'clock in the morning to try and figure out how to use it. So definitely make sure you get an easy to use. I like to get one of each or one of those dual things, but if you're having a drip maker, one button on or off.
Yeah, I hated that coffee maker that you're talking about. It was a pain in the rear end, and I do everything. I get every coffee gadget on the planet, and I mean, I run out of countertop space, to be honest, because if one person, exactly what you just said, brings Keurigs, and if you don't have a Keurig, then it's like, oh man, you're cutting the Keurig open and trying to put it in a filter. So I have all the above. I also do espresso machine, the Nespresso, like the pod espresso machines. And I tell people I don't provide coffee, but I actually do. So I overpromise, underdeliver. Overpromise other way around. Yeah. So in other words, they show up and I do have some coffee there, because I feel like if I tell them that there's going to be coffee, then they're going to be like, well, what kind is it and what blah, 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 blah. So I don't have time for all that. So I just tell them no coffee. But when they show up, there's no way for them to be disappointed, because there's more than what they were expecting. So that's kind of my coffee system in a nutshell, that for a non-coffee drinker.
In my properties, what I do, because I do have a drip coffee maker in all of our properties. So when they schedule a reservation, I send a reservation confirmation, email or, message to them through the Vrbo or Airbnb app. And I include like answers to frequently asked questions. So what kind of coffee maker is it? So I tell them up front, what to expect, as well as we provide a starter kit of, toiletries and things like that. So that way they know what to shop for.
All right, cool. And are we providing creamer and like sugar or sweetener? And then also I'll segue into what spices, et cetera, are we leaving in the kitchens around here? Like what's expected?
Yeah. So for us, we just have a small condiment, little metal holder for it. And we'll just have a few packets of creamer, a few packets of sugar, a few packets of artificial sweetener, just enough to get them through the weekend. If they're going to be staying longer, then they can go out and get their own. But we want to give them something. If we're going to give them coffee, we figured we should probably give them something to make it fit exactly what they're looking for.
Yeah, it's tough because, again, if you promise them stuff, and then at the same time, it's like, well, somebody spilled all over these condiments or coffee fixer uppers. I do ship a new like a little set. It's like I don't know what it is, ceramic thing with like separate spaces in it for sugar and non-dairy creamer, that kind of thing. And I just bought it on Amazon, like coffee, just search for coffee fixins or whatever on Amazon. And I have it on a spreadsheet somewhere. So I just know where to click it and reorder it when you need to. Same thing with salt and pepper, spices, etc. I find in most cases, people end up leaving so much stuff behind that you end up having to purge some of it at some point, because the next thing you got like 40 half-used things of hot sauce or whatever, and it's good to have a couple of those things around, but they get kind of gross if you don't keep an eye on it. So I mean, just have your cleaner send a picture is not a bad idea of the wherever the spices have been collecting. There's the same spot in every house, you know what I mean? Like, or each house has its spot. Like one house, the damn spices always end up in this spot, and then this house they're over here in this pantry cabinet or whatever. And just if you can't go to the property, which is not always possible, just have your cleaner shoot a picture every couple of months or and then just say, hey, go through this stuff, and if it looks gross, get rid of it. And then like ketchup and mustard, I'm out on that, dude. It's touching other people's mouths and things, and it's touching their food, and it's just disgusting. So, I mean, I'll leave a hot sauce, maybe not some big giant nasty hot sauce or whatever, but like one of them little.
Not a big old jug of Valentino.
Yeah, like used to be in my apartment when we first met. You mean?
Yeah.
I think I had two of them actually. I haven't had Valentina in a long time. And where's that from? Is that from Texas? Is it Mexican?
Valentina, let me look it up.
It's gonna be one of the two. I mean, I guess
I've never heard of it. I don't think it's from Texas.
And maybe it's from Arizona or something. It's probably Mexican.
I'm looking it up right now.
It's good. It is good. It's super thick. Anyway, hot sauce junkies.
I'm more of a Tapatio gal myself.
Too hot for me.
That you what?
It's too hot for me. Louisiana and Crystal. Crystal's definitely top of the list for me, and Cholula. Of course, Cholula is the official hot sauce of the New York Mets, of which I am a fan.
the only hot sauce with a distinctive wooden cap.
Yeah.
Okay, Valentina is from Mexico, distributed in Laredo, Texas.
Oh, okay. It's good. It's good. It's just super cheap. You can get it at the grocery store in most
really
cases.
good.
But anyway,
we have an entire 2 shelves of hot sauce at our house. So.
Yeah. Every time the one I want is gone. You know what I mean?
Always.
It's like, damn it. So anyway, ketchup, mustard, stuff like that. I'm pretty much out on that. But and then I get a lot of folks that are like, dude, house was awesome, but I really wish you had Ziplocs. I don't know, man. It's almost impossible to keep that system, to systematize that, because the bags are like half empty all the time. And I mean, I'm not opposed to that, because it's not something it's not a sanitary issue like a bottle of ketchup, but could go either way on little stuff. Like, to me, it's like, dude, if you really needed a freaking Ziploc, you should probably should have snuck it, brought your own in your suitcase there. You know what I mean? It's not something I would think about when I'm going on vacation.
Yeah, we're usually eating out and stuff vacation and don't really need a Ziploc. I can see why you would want one. There's usually always a need. But anyway. Okay, so, are we providing things like aluminum foil, Ziplocs, or anything like that? Well, and by are we providing, I mean, is it expected by the guests in that area or not so much?
So I'm not providing any of that. When I go, I will usually stock up on those things, but I don't advertise that, that's part of the that they should expect that. And if they ask me, I'll tell them, no, we don't provide that stuff. So that way, if they arrive and there's not any there, they're not mad at me.
Yeah. What do you say, Stephen?
Yeah, same. I would say if we had houses with more people, I might be inclined to provide maybe some foil, but since when I go on vacation, I don't want to take things home with me, and I don't want to take stuff out. So if I do, I would bring that my own. So I don't see a need to provide it.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's like, dude, if somebody leaves it, okay, I'll leave it in the drawer. But otherwise, I'm not gonna go out of my way. I mean, and you're gonna get one in every crowd, but it's like, dude, how high maintenance are you gonna be on this damn vacation? Why don't you go up to the hills? You know what I mean? Go to the German restaurant. Okay, we got all this awesome food around here, and you're sitting here complaining about aluminum foil. Some people, you just can't make them happy.
Auslander, that's already been mentioned on a previous episode. That place is so good in Fredericksburg. You guys are in Fredericksburg, you got to go to Auslander.
It's delicious.
Yeah. All right. So kind of enough about the kitchen. Let's talk about bathrooms. Are we doing shampoos and conditioners, like the little mini kind? Are we doing anything like that, or just saying, BYO?
So my cleaners provide a starter pack. So just the minis for each bathroom. So that way I call it a starter kit, in my initial message to them. So they know that we're not, if they're there for 7 days, that's not enough to get them through. It's just, to get them through for a day or two before they can go to the store and grab more.
I saw some cool ones on Amazon recently I was looking for travel stuff for us for our motorhome trip coming up, and they are actually made in bulk for short-term rental owners, and they're in these little bags, and they're like kind of nice and spa looking.
Yeah, they were really cheap. I actually sent that link. You should post that somewhere, because it was a ton of different like combo packs, and they were really cool. Like some of them look like little mason jars, and they were like 60 cents, for each one or whatever. And you buy them in bulk, like 200 units. I actually sent that link you sent me to all of my cleaners, and they were like, "Wow, this is super cool. Glad you sent this to me." I don't personally handle that. If it's the same thing with Stacy, you know, we'll provide a start. I really try not to even get into specifics when it comes to like shampoos and things, because again, if they show up in like the cleaner, you know, I mean, here's a perfect example. Avery and I went to one of ours recently, and it had no soaps in the bathrooms. Like there's no shampoo, no soap, nothing. And I don't think my cleaner even knew we were coming. And so I was the last time I was there, she had them, and I was like, "So are you not doing soaps anymore? Because if you're not, I need to tell my guests that, because this particular house is in the middle of freaking nowhere. It would take you a while to find some shampoo at this house, you know." And she goes, "No, I'm doing it. I'm still doing it for sure. I just my order got delayed and it didn't come in, and you know, so it's a never ending thing there where I do my best to again under promise." I actually don't even give like an exact, you know, here's what you're going to get, because of exactly what just happened to me last week at my own house, you know, like you're going to have this, and this, and then it's all about expectations. If they show up and that stuff's not there, they're going to be mad, you know, so it's a fine line. You got to, I try to walk that fine line, make everybody happy, you know.
Yeah, we use dispensers. We use dispensers on the wall, and we have the gallon jugs of shampoo, conditioner, and body wash. It's really very cheap. They're not we found there's not much waste because we're always continually refilling them. Guests are happy. Cleaners take a photo of it after they clean to make sure that the levels are where they need to be. So every guest has it. It's really super easy. And then we also have refillable hand soap at the wash sink as well. And I bought the little containers and then just refills. So they just keep refilling them every time.
Yep, gotta have that. Okay, so let's talk about some of the bigger picture stuff. So if you're buying a house in the country that needs to be completely furnished, are there places you can go locally? And I shouldn't say locally because there's so many different areas in the Hill Country, but are these typically things we're going to have to order, or are there semi-local furniture stores that you buy most of your stuff from to get it out there?
So you're going to have to order a lot of stuff. San Antonio and Austin are both pretty close to most of your Hill Country locations. So if you need to go to a furniture store or something, that's an option. But I think ordering is probably going to be the best route to go in most, especially for smaller things. I don't know, Steve, I don't know how you handled it.
Yeah, we ordered almost everything. You know, Fredericksburg has trade days, so we would go to trade days just to pick up some unique items that were really local to the area, like our doors on our bathroom, our barn doors that are all reclaimed doors. Just little touches to make it really part of the Hill Country, but all the other stuff, it was almost always Amazon, if not a few other locations here and there.
Yeah, and you can get Amazon's a slippery slope when it comes to like furniture and things, but there is wood, you know, like Zionist, for instance, is a very popular furniture brand on Amazon. I think they own it. I'm not sure, but anyway, they have wood versions of all this stuff too, like, well, for like bed frames, you know what I mean? And the wooden ones are going to last a little longer, and they're also a little bit less bed bug friendly than the fabric ones. I've purchased many Amazon bed frames over the years, and the fabric ones have all come and gone, and some of my wood ones are still hanging around, and they're very inexpensive for what you're getting. They're pretty good price. Every now and then you got to kind of reinforce the slats, especially if you're getting rid of the box spring, which I like to do. I don't like a box spring. To me, that's just one more thing to deal with. So I'll either cut it, you know, take out some of the slats and put like a few real deal 2x4s in there to make it stronger, or put what's called a bunky board, which you can get that on Amazon as well. As a matter of fact, Zionist makes a metal bunky board, which is nice because metal means less chance of bed bugs sticking to things. And bunky board basically just kind of reinforces. It's made for bunk beds, but I put them on my regular big beds because then you can just put the mattress and get rid of the box spring. And all this stuff is something to consider because, you know, I mean, really the number one reason people are coming to these properties is to get it on. So you got to have a pretty strong bed there to make sure you can facilitate that.
Yeah, totally. So my guess is, since anything local outside of a few things, you're probably going to be dealing with a furniture store in San Antonio or a furniture store in Austin, and they're probably not super familiar with the whole door code culture. So they're going to want you to be there. They're not going to be okay with like in the Panhandle here, you could say, oh yeah, here's the code, put it in and set it up, and they'll do it. But I would imagine those big cities like that, they're probably not going to be comfortable doing that. They're used to doing that.
Yeah. You're right.
So moral of the story is if you're buying something in the hill country that isn't coming furnished, you should plan to be there and furnish it, because it's probably not going to be delivered and set up for you, or have, somebody there to receive and oversee what's going on.
And there are, in some of our markets, we do have people who will do that for you. So if you can't come in, that's definitely an option, if you're willing to pay somebody to kind of receive those things and make sure it gets set up the way you want to.
Okay, cool. Well, what else have we not talked about in terms of setup that you think the listeners could benefit from hearing? Luke, why are you giggling?
Because Chade said something on the side there about doing a hot sauce episode. I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, anything that you think the listeners could benefit from hearing, Stephen or Stacy? I mean, Stephen, you've got a bunch of units, so I'm interested to see, if there's anything maybe specific to the market, like the cowboy pools and things like that. Do we have any of those? We have to maintain those. What do you even do to maintain a cowboy pool? Does anybody know?
Drain it. I don't want to know. That's all I got to say. I don't want to have to deal with that. We have some hot tubs at Canyon Lake, just some 2-person hot tubs in some of the units. That's been something that we felt is really necessary being on the lake. Fire pits obviously are very necessary. So you got to have your chairs, your pits, those are super important.
Oh, well, let's talk about that. Do you provide firewood, and how do you keep that stocked?
We do not provide firewood.
Okay.
So we provide the area for it at Canyon Lake. We do not have fire pits at 290. We have gigantic oak trees and all of the containers around the oak trees, and we don't want to put those in danger. So we don't provide fire pits or any availability for fire out there. And so far, we've only had a few folks that have asked about it. It's not been that big of a deal. As far as pools, I think pools, they're a nice to have, but I don't think that they're a requirement until you get into a larger property. If you get into a larger property where you're now going to be handling multiple families, then I think it's an absolute must, because that's going to be where they are. But if you're in a smaller property where it's more of I'm just going to be there to sleep and spend a few hours in the morning and the evening, and I'm going to be out most of the time, then why would you waste your money on that? That just doesn't seem to be beneficial. And I don't know that it's going to drive additional bookings that you would want to offset that. Now, we've certainly looked at putting in a container pool, the theme, it would be aligned with the theme, but man, they're expensive, and I just don't see the ROI at this point. So, one of the things that you asked is what do people need to know? I think it's super important you've got to create a list. So one of the things that when we first started, we were piecemealing things, right? We were, oh, hey, this will look good. This will look good. And we accumulated all these things. And then we went to set up and we're like, oh, wait, we're missing this, and this, and this. And so I think once I sat down and said, okay, let me go through what somebody's going to need if they're going to stay with us, and started making a list. And then, I did a lot of research looking at, because there's a lot of people that will provide the same lists, right? On different forums, et cetera, and like, okay, what would you have in your particular Airbnb or short-term rental, et cetera, and customize that to what we were needing. And then once we get all that in there, then I went and stayed there and said, okay, I stayed there for the night. Did I have everything I need? And if I didn't, then I'd add it on. And we continually are adding things, in our situation with the tiny homes and the containers, we're pressed for space. So we're walking that fine line between, do I have enough amenities or do I have too much stuff in there because now it's just becoming crowded? And so we slowly but surely have been saying, okay, how can we maximize the space, still have some additional things? And then we, just keep that list. So I think it's you have to be open to learn and to take the feedback from your guests, because you might think you have everything you need, but then your guests are staying there saying, hey, this would be nice, or this would be nice.
Luke, do you want to retell your joke that I stepped on?
No, I would rather have you listen to watch this later and then be like, "Oh my God, I didn't even notice that joke." But that's just part of it after however many wonderful, blissful years of marriage and hot sauce.
Marriage and hot sauce.
They're
All
really
right.
kind of the same thing, aren't they?
All right. Anything else in regards to setup that we're going to go over management in a different episode, but anything in regards to getting the actual house set up and ready to go that we've missed or that you feel like the listeners would benefit from hearing?
I would just say on larger properties, you want to make sure you've got like a full set of pots and pans, cookware, things like that. You'd be surprised how many people will actually, cook meals at the property. So that was feedback we got pretty early on, that we didn't have enough pots and pans and even like cookie sheets and stuff. Like, who's baking on vacation? But lots of people do apparently. So we have now stocked all of our properties with, more cookware than you could possibly need, just to make sure guests have what they are looking for.
I agree. I was like, who's baking a cake? But they do, man. And that's why they rented a house instead of a hotel. What's the biggest difference between a hotel and a short-term rental? Is a damn kitchen, right? So you're right there. And that stuff walks away. You think your house is rocking and rolling and you got all this awesome stuff. Well, it's really two things. Sometimes I'll show up and I'll be like, wait a minute, what happened to all that stuff I ordered? And I'll even go back through and look, and I'm like, wait, nah, I guess I didn't order as much stuff as I thought I did. I need to get some more stuff over to this house. And sometimes it does walk away, or it gets, cookie sheets get nasty. If you're not putting tinfoil on them, they're going to get nasty pretty quick. So, it's always good to keep an inventory of them. And that's another thing. That's why, I always say you probably aren't going to want 500 of these things, because the more time you're spending in them and enjoying them with your family, which is really why we're here, the better you're going to be running your business in a lot of ways. I mean, it depends on, if you're doing just straight up property management, that's a whole other conversation. But, my opinion is get to the house as often as possible. Because it's fun, for one thing, and you can check on that kind of stuff.
I agree. And guys, if you would like to contribute to my Get Avery a Hill Country property, you can email Luke. Campaign. You can email Luke, Luke at theshorttermshop.com.
My email address is avery@theshorttermshop.com.
And y'all, he manages all of our properties and he just doesn't want to do a new market, but
well, hey,
it'll be really fun.
I'm happy. I'm happy where I'm at.
Yeah. Well, hey, there's a new direct flight 1 hour from Panama City to Austin. We could be out there at our Hill Country property in 2 hours. Anyway.
Front. Beautiful.
Okay. Well, thank you guys. If you want to buy a house with Stacy in the Hill Country, you can email us at agents@theshorttermshop.com. Or if you just have more questions on short-term rental investing in general or the Hill Country, you can join us in several places. Our Facebook group called Short-Term Rental, Long-Term Wealth, same as my book. Or every Thursday, we have an open Zoom Q&A. You can sign up for that at strquestions.com. And thank you guys so much for coming.